Hey guys, it's Christine Gambito, aka HappySlip, and you're listening to Annie Talks.
Annie Talks, Annie Talks. Welcome to the show. Here we go with Annie Talks. Annie Talks, Annie Talks. Welcome to the show. Here's the host, it's Annie Talks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Annie Talks, where we bring to you interesting stories about interesting people that you want to know about. I'm your host, Annie Rivera. Thank you for tuning in, and to those who have already subscribed. If you're new to the podcast, welcome, and I hope you enjoy what you hear, and if so, I personally invite you to subscribe. Annie Talks is brought to you by Daily Gadgets and More. Daily Gadgets and More is proud and committed to offering the largest variety of high-quality products at the lowest prices and the best customer service. Find us on Instagram or visit dailygadgetsandmore.com. That's dailygadgetsandmore.com. On my next episode of Annie Talks, I am so proud and honored to have a lovely comedian, YouTube sensation, Christine Gambito. Christine, also known by her screen name HappySlip, is a Filipino American internet personality, actress, and comedian. Her videos have been viewed over 100 million times across the web. She started performing comedy at a young age when her mom would request for her to do impressions of the family. Other cousins had to play piano, she had to do stand-up and do imitations on demand. Unbeknownst to Christine, those were her early days of stand-up comedy. Loving to create stories and skits, Christine wrote, performed, and edited her one-woman show, which started on YouTube in 2006 under the name HappySlip. Christine tells the story of how she came upon the name HappySlip. If you haven't heard the story, be sure to listen all the way to the end where she explains the origin of HappySlip. So, Christine decided to use this as a screen name not only for the funny childhood memory, but also based on the hope that people would slip into happiness when they watch her videos. Now, without further delay, here now is my conversation with Christine Gambito. I have the wonderful privilege, believe me, you guys, it's such an honor to have this guest on our show. It is Christine Gambito. Everybody, you guys know her as HappySlip. Christine, thank you so much for being on the show. I really, truly appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me, Annie. Woohoo! Yeah!
Yay! I know. So we just did a whole introduction of who you are and how the world knows you. So why don't you just kind of fill in the gaps about, things that maybe you'd like to share with us? I'd like to know, for instance, like your hometown and all that. So why don't you just kind of give us that information leading up to who Christine Gambito is today?
Well, let's see here now. Born and raised in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people kind of detect that in just my everyday way of talking, because sometimes a little Southern twang will come out. Not necessarily that everyone around me spoke that way, but there's a Virginian type of, manner that comes out in me. And so definitely more American than Filipino in the sense of, being born and raised there, but everything of the Filipino culture and everything of the family is exactly where the humor comes from, because growing up in a Filipino family, but having to face an American world. So
Right.
Yeah. So grew up there, and let's see what else. I mean, knew from an early age that I was a ham. I would just memorize commercials and act them out, and uncles would be recording me, and I would just sit there and be a total ham. And I just didn't know how that was going to pan out or turn into whatever. I just knew probably by age 13, definitely I wanted to be a professional performer somehow. So my dad to take headshots of me. He used to have his own little photography business at the time. And I literally, with my big fat Coke bottle, bifocal glasses, I was just convinced that I was going to be an actress somehow. I forced him. I was like, take my headshots. And I got a book that was supposedly leading me into how to get acting jobs and how to get an agent. So I tried to put my pictures that my dad took of me to a local agency. And when I think of it now, I'm like, oh, they would have had a great laugh looking at those. I'm sure. But yeah, it's that early kind of, what would you call it? It's that pure desire to just do what you love. And I didn't have any kind of inhibitions as far as like a mirror of reality staring me in the face saying, oh, look at you, first of all. And this era in this time and space in Hollywood, there's no spot for you right now. They won't know what to do with you. I didn't have any of those thoughts at all. I was just like, I'm an actress. And I had no idea how that was going to turn out, but I just knew that it was a dream, back then. And I'm sorry, now I'm just like meandering off and saying everything.
No, I love it. I mean, you were like invincible, it sounds like. I mean, you already kind of knew in the back of your mind, in your forefront, that you just what you wanted to do. And see now, when most children or kids your age or our age or that at that age when, we're not thinking about what we want to do when we grow up, you already knew, you already kind of figured that out. So, I mean, you were already kind of forward thinking about that.
Yes. Well, I think friends also kind of encouraged that along the way. They're just like, oh yeah, they just already knew I was the ham. I was the, with friends and especially at church, in that safe environment for me, I was just all out ridiculously OA, like overacting and completely, people just knew me that way. So, but at school I was introverted, like a turtle in my shell, and didn't talk at all. And it was just interesting because I think what got me confident in saying at 13, hey dad, take my headshots and all that, was a teacher that believed in me at that age. She, just for some reason, I was her teacher's pet. Okay. I don't know what. Maybe because I gave her a candle for the Christmas season that time, but she just took to me and said, I want you to join the public speaking group, the forensics, what they called it, which I don't know why they call it forensics, because everyone always thinks, the study of dead bodies or what? No, it was public speaking. And so she, for some reason, saw in me that let's work on this together. I don't know why she even thought to believe in me that way, because she didn't see me in my other context. But the long story short there is that I ended up competing in different like storytelling competitions. That's what it was, storytelling. And then I wrote my own original oratory essay on prejudice. And I got up there with my bifocal glasses and this tiny little brown girl's up there. And I just remember that day clearly. And the reaction of the judges and the people, they were just like, we did not expect that voice to come out of this little body, like just speaking with conviction and up there owning it, you know what I'm saying? And so when I won first place for that, my teacher literally stood up and yelled for the whole entire auditorium to hear her shriek this proud, joyous shriek. She was so and at that moment I felt invincible. I was like, I'm gonna be an actress. And she was like, she was like, you're gonna be a lawyer. And I was like, huh? That's where it started. Yeah, that's where it started. And then by let's see, so obviously professional jobs didn't really come in until my early 20s. And I kind of, maxed out for what the industry had for me in that area where I grew up. And it was mostly like training films and industrials. And for me, I was just like, ooh, I'm getting paid to act, even if it was a training film on how to put on goggles, how to put on gloves, how to operate a forklift,
It's so funny.
Yeah, because there was an industrial production company right there in my hometown. And so once I kind of maxed out on that, a director I was working with was trying to tell me and encourage me to go to New York and pursue acting and that whole thing. But really things I felt didn't really take off in the way that I could really showcase what I can do until YouTube started. I mean, because, for me to be thrown into the whole New York, LA, like go with all the other, go to all the auditions and try. And it's just like dissatisfying because you're trying to fit into a box of what other directors or producers have in mind. And you can't really show uniquely what you do. Mm-hmm. So if you're saying, talk to us about what makes you who you are today, then I would say career-wise, that didn't feel satisfying as an artist until YouTube started. And then I was like, oh, wow, I can do what I usually do for the family, make sitcoms, 30-minute sitcoms for the entertainment of the family, and learn how to craft it for the internet and pretty much have my own one-woman show. I can do what I want from the comfort of my own home. And that's where the creative, what could you call it? Sparks were flying. Just like, oh my God, I can do, sky's the limit. I can do whatever I want here,
I love that about YouTube because when I discovered it, I mean, I was late to the game, I'm sure it's been around for, at least a decade at best. But I'm late to the game. But when I did finally jump on the bandwagon, you're absolutely right. You just start to realize that you can be your own producer, you wear like you're a woman of many hats. You just wear all these different hats, and then you're the writer, the producer, and everything else, the editor, and probably the videographer, and so on and so forth. So, which actually, I wanted to ask you, did you do all of your shooting? I mean, did you produce it all yourself? I mean, were you the one behind the camera, basically?
Yeah, pretty much for all the HappySlip videos, it's pretty much. There's only later, by the time I had 3 kids, I brought on a friend to kind of help me with the editing. So there's a few videos that he helped me with. But at the end of the day, when it comes to comedic timing and the vision I have in my head, the skits are something that I'm very hands-on, and I'm just like, oh, I know what I want, so let me just get in there and edit it or whatever. So, right. But pretty much almost everything you see there, I've had to, from the concept and writing the skit out, and then recording it, and then editing it, and then promoting. Like everything is just really a one-woman show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, your beloved character, HappySlip, I love it so much. And I know that the entire Filipino and Fil-Am, Filipino American community has embraced it, and because they feel like this great sense of connection with you. Now, how does that make you feel that you're like the pioneer for female comedians and specifically, of Asian culture representing the Filipino community? How does that make you feel?
Well, it's hard to wrap my brain around because it's just, making videos in your room at home is one thing, but then when you go out and actually do live performances and connect with people face to face, it's surreal. You're just like, what? How is this happening? And, when people ask me, sometimes in the Q&A, they'll be like, well, which comedians do you look up to? And I'd have to pause and be like, wait a minute. Like, I literally didn't even know, this was not a goal for me to be a stand-up comic back when I was 13. I didn't have any clue that's what it was going to turn into. So it's not like I was studying stand-up comics and saying, I'm going to be that one day. It just turned into this, and turns out that this is the roots of where my performance came from. I just didn't realize that's what it was. I didn't realize I was doing stand-up comedy. I didn't realize I would be most in my element and most comfortable doing comedy. So this is all this kind of new frontier for me as well. So to think, when I have to actually sit and pause and think, are there any other Filipina stand-up comedians that are touring at the Improvs and doing and like headlining? And I don't know. I don't know of any. So
honestly, I don't either, but I like to think that you are definitely groundbreaking, that and paving that way for future Filipinos or Filipino women comedians, to make a name for themselves as well. And you definitely, I think, have cornered that market for now, for sure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Annie.
Yeah, of course. Now, tell us a little bit more about the characters. I know that you, in your skits, you were talking earlier about your skits. Now, I know that you play your mom, your dad, and your aunt. And then you play others too. So can you just kind of briefly tell us about what made you create these characters, and obviously you base these characters off real life people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And again, the origination of all this came about from the family being bored at holiday parties, family gatherings. Oh, okay. Can you imitate me, please? My mom asking me, and then I'm up there and they're literally asking me, oh, imitate your cousin so-and-so, your Lola, your sister, your dad, your mom, and they just start down the list. And so I would just observe people and then take on their characteristics. So a lot of these other characters, so you mentioned the big ones like the mom, the dad, like the Lola, the aunt, and I do like a cousin who is kind of a mixture of different cousins that I have. So there's the shyness quality, and her name's Minnie. So she's shy,
right.
put on the spot by her mom, and she has to sing so it's a lot of even the aunt character is a mixture. So her hair is based off of one aunt, and then the outlandish stuff she says sometimes are a mixture of different aunties that I have observed. But definitely inspired by real life characters and just taking stories that have kind of endured through the years, and people saying, tell that story again about blah, 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 blah. Or, point that at family reunions, that's why I would make the sitcoms, because I was interested in the whole production aspect of, creating something, forcing my cousins to be in it, and then I would act all these parts out, and then we would have something for everyone to watch at the reunions. And then, so therefore, if they got bored again, a second or third or fourth, I'd be like, just watch the show, like pop them in the show again. So
yeah. Now, so I know that you in your skits that you have this, an undeniable Filipino accent, and it's actually one of the best I've heard. So, but you don't speak Tagalog or in Ilocano or any of the Filipino language. Is that correct?
Yeah, only a few words, and that's where people get shocked, because they're like, what? Because all along they think if I do the accent well, they think obviously I'm going to speak the language. But and I explained to everybody that yes, my parents were afraid we would get confused in school, so they only spoke English to us, so conversing in English back and forth, but to each other they would speak Tagalog, and we would hear other family members speak Tagalog. So it's like I can understand for the most part, but I can't formulate, I can't speak it.
Yeah, so, same here. I forget it. I can't even try. I get scrutinized, and I'm not sure if you get scrutinized, but I get the frowns from the older or the elderly. You don't speak it. Oh, and then they kind of shake their head in disbelief, like. So I think that's really cool. That I like how you go from the English language to, and then you throw in the accent, and then once in a while you throw in a couple Filipino words, and it really just resonates so well with the whole Filipino community, because we can all relate, especially us younger generations, where we certainly didn't grow up in that household speaking Filipino either. So we're like you, we understand what they're saying, but then we answer in English. So right. I get that all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely hitting as far as I want to say a nerve, like in a bad way, but it's reminding people of, that's how I grew up too. How come we have the same household, or how come we have the same experiences? It's just observing, and it's observational humor. And then when it's played out, people are like, oh, I see my own situation being played out. I see my own family being played out. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's definitely the type of comedy to describe what it is, because people go, what it is that you do? It's not like I come up with jokes and a punchline necessarily. It's not like that. It's more observational humor.
Right. And it's it's relatable for all of us. It's definitely relatable, and it's definitely something that we've all, have at one point or another we identify with, and it resonates with us quite nicely, actually.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Now, I don't even know how we came to meet virtually. I think at one point, I was trying to help with some of your touring dates way back when. But I thought this was interesting because I remember at one point that you were going to actually take your family on the road in an RV. And you were going to do a tour circuit. And,
yeah. Is there, like, what happened?
Yeah, what happened?
So I think that was 2012 when we talked. And so I had, at that point, how old would Mike have been? He would have been 7, and then a 2-year-old and a newborn when I talked to you. And so you're talking about this creative drive has always been around, but the phase of life into which this could actually materialize and happen is why, fast forward then now 7 years later, or almost 7 years later from when we first talked, is just because of literally the timing. So the boys are older now. I don't need to be chasing them around. I mean, a 2-year-old and then a newborn boy, so you're 3 boys. So now they're older, they're 13, 8, and 6. And so I really don't have to worry about them getting into the trouble like back then. Not that the newborn would get in trouble, but I'm just saying the amount of time that I had aspirations, but it's like the timing didn't work out. And also we were brainstorming together how to even land venues. I was very not confident in thinking that will people even show up? So I was trying to find some way to, is there a way you can do, what is the name of that service? It's where people launch like independent movies to be screened or to be, and they have these watch parties, and then, but they'll only rent the theater if enough people commit to it and pay ahead of time. And so to me, that seemed like a risk-free way of being able to rent venues. But there doesn't seem to be that kind of model out there for like stand-up comedy.
Right.
So I kind of put it on the back shelf and just focused on the family for a while. But I just thought, I don't, one, have the confidence that people would actually come out. And number 2, I don't have the money to be renting independent theater anyway.
Right.
So it just seemed a little overwhelming at that stage of life. And then now, now that the kids are older, it's just the daughter now that's 2 years old, but you still have that creative drive. You're in a different phase of life. And it's like, you know what? We saved up money. Let's go out on not like it was a ton of money. It was literally a leap of faith to be like, let me rent out this local theater for $3,000 and hope that I can make the money back. If enough people would at least show up to just at least make the money back. So it was literally a step of faith to book those first shows. And then when they started selling out, that's when I got in contact with the improv. We were actually just trying to rent an improv location, not like try to do open mics or get in with that scene, because I didn't think they'd give me the time of day. It was more like, can I just rent the venue?
Right.
And then, but they caught wind of what I was doing and selling out these independent shows. So they're like offered to me, they said, would you like to headline at some of our clubs? I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh my God, that is so awesome. Timing is everything. I mean, I think, life had to happen, and then, the development of all the, the comedy clubs, the local comedy clubs, and whatnot. I think it's timing is everything. So I think this is the perfect time. And because people have absolutely missed you, I mean, they wanted to see continuous skits and whatnot. And we know that that you had a family to raise. And then when you said that you were going on tour, everybody just kind of cheered and yay, let's go see her. So yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely, we love it. I'm happy that you're out on the circuit, and I know that your fans are definitely out on the circuit. And
I think, like you said, timing too. When I said that I literally didn't have confidence, 7 years before, is because the more kids that came, and that was a purposeful move to build into the family, to build into things that will last in eternity, right? I mean, these are the important things. I know videos aren't going to last for eternity, right? I mean, all that is secondary to my family. But when I told you that 7 years ago, I didn't have the confidence that people would show up, is because you can't measure the connection that the audience has with you based on social media views. You cannot. So I ended up getting invited last year to a TFCU talks. It's like a TED Talks, but for the TFC Filipino channel. So that's what got me pretty proactive on doing this independent tour, because I showed up. I just put a little blast on social media. I didn't think anyone would really show up. I thought, it maybe a few will show up. We'll see. But I was surprised the amount of people that came out. These are fans that have been fans for over a decade. Mm-hmm. They showed up. And the type of connection and the things they were saying to me, and the line to just talk and meet was like down the stage, out the door, and I was like, where are these people coming from? What are they, and I literally did not I couldn't fathom that they were still connected to me after all this time, that I had been silent on YouTube and silent on social media, building in another way. I mean, you think how fast social media moves, that once you're out of sight, out of mind, like lost mm-hmm. in space, like no one's going to care. That's what I thought. But then to see the connection in their eyes and be like, I just always will connect to your stuff, this and that, this and that. And I thought, that's what kicked me in the butt to do it. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to pay attention so much to these social media numbers. I'm going to pay attention to what the real connection is face to face. And to me, I love it much more. Live performance, there's nothing like it. I'd much rather do live performance than videos.
Mm-hmm. I hope you're enjoying this podcast episode. We'll be right back after this short message from one of our sponsors. Comfotherm thermal wraps are designed to help relieve the pain and swelling in and around the jaw, especially after wisdom teeth extractions. For more information, visit comfotherm.com. That's comfotherm.com. Hey there, Annie Rivera here. Thanks for tuning in to Annie Talks. Be sure to tell your friends about subscribing to the podcast, and don't forget to rate and review the podcast. Doing so helps out with the algorithm and helps others to find this podcast too. I also invite you to like my Annie Talks Facebook page. There you'll find other news, information, upcoming events, and all sorts of things. Stay in the know with Annie Talks. I also invite you to join the Annie Talks Community Facebook group, where we carry the conversation from the podcast episode to the Facebook group. Ask questions about the episode, about a guest, about the locations, you name it. Ask away. This forum is for you. See you on the Annie Talks Community Facebook group.
And when you were here locally at the Brea Improv not too long ago, you did a skit I thought was just super funny. You had brought up a few people onto the stage, and without telling too much, but you had a little skit about the nicknames, or the Filipino nicknames, or and I loved that. I thought it was so funny. So again, it's being relatable with your audience and having that connection, because they feel, they're this is the person that they've always looked up to and that they love watching, that entertain them. And now they have that connection because you're there with them. And now, you've interacted with them, and it's that much more valuable to them. So I was so happy that you did that.
Oh, yay.
I thought it was a great skit. So yay.
Oh, yay. Yeah. That's always fun. That part always is like,
yeah,
live with the fans, like you said, on stage.
Yeah. So now you have a couple more dates coming up, right? You have Washington, D.C., you have Arizona, Washington, or what did I already say? Washington, or Seattle, and then Canada. So what's next after that for you?
Yeah, we're trying to, just newly working with an agent and a manager now.
Okay.
All these shows that have taken off, that's led to more doors opening. And so now we're strategizing kind of just putting down these cities that have been asking and requesting, and trying to strategize of how to add more of these cities and venues. So there's definitely going to be, just off the top of my head, obviously got to hit Hawaii, Las Vegas, Houston, Dallas, obviously the beach, but Toronto's huge, New York City, Jersey City. I think Florida, I've got some requests from Miami and Jacksonville yeah, so those are some just off the top of my head that I'm like, we have got to hit these places. You know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're going to be phenomenal. And I'm super excited for you. So these are all just, I think the world is waiting. The world has been waiting. And so for you to come out and just, give of yourself and give of your comedy and of your talent and have everybody see it on display live, I think it's just one of the most valuable things that, anybody you can do. And I know the audience is just going to love it. I think they're just going to eat it all up. So I'm happy for you. I'm super happy for you. Now, back when you started your YouTube channel, I know that you'd mentioned way back when, or just recently, you said something about that your husband wanted a little bit more anonymity for your family. Now, is that the same today? Because I know that you do feature some of your children in some of your skits, like on your Instagram, or
yes.
So how did they embrace it, or how do they embrace that?
I think back in 2006 and just the unknown of what YouTube was and putting yourself out there online. And my husband tends to be, he's more private of an individual. Like he doesn't even want me to focus in on him. Like if I do stories or whatever, he'll just freeze like a deer in headlights. He doesn't really know what to do. And then I'm like, I don't want people to get some kind of false impression that he's this like super serious kind of dude, because he's very conversational, very hospitable, very personable. And so it's just that he's not a camera guy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I don't want him to feel uncomfortable. And so I don't sit there and put the camera there. If he happens to be in the background, he's fine with that. But he doesn't want me to like focus it on him. But back when HappySlip first started, he was definitely concerned about just the privacy of the family. And he wanted me to treat it very separate, like that, do your show, but then keep it very separate. Like the idea of vlogging every day and showing family stuff, like that was very foreign. It's like, what? Do what? Like, first of all, who's going to watch that? Like, yeah, if you asked me back then, I'd be like, who wants to watch that? No one's going to watch like everyday moments with our family. But then, but number two, he wasn't comfortable with like showing everything or being too, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Now he's like, whatever I want to do. He, if I focus on the children a little bit and it's for a comedic moment or whatever, he's fine with that. He's not like trolling about that or anything. It's more, not understanding the space a decade ago, so now it's fine. He trusts like whatever I put out there.
Your children seem to love it. I think, Micah for sure. I think he, he loves the camera. I think he's kind of used to the camera, right? And
that's what I mean. Like I tend to, the kids that are hams, they're definitely into it. Like Ian, not so much. He doesn't like it so much. So I don't force him, I don't want them to feel forced in anything. But if it's just happens to be a funny moment, like, oh, I have got to capture this, then I'll do that. But, you end up seeing the ones that they're kind of hammy like me. So
now, wait, are you the only child, or do you have siblings as well? I mean,
older sister.
And is she just as talented as she's outgoing as yourself?
Sarah Gambito, look her up, everybody, because she is a very talented poet and writer.
Wow.
And so we grew up complimenting each other, because although her personality is introverted, she was the writer. She would write plays and she would write this and that, and I would direct and act in them. But she is the writer. She's a professor of creative writing at Fordham University, and just released another poetry book. It's a poetry book / cookbook.
Oh, wow, that is so cool. Yeah, well, that's a nice little plug for your sister. But I think you guys have just all the creative juices, and you definitely have that running in the blood. So I kind of foresee that a little bit in your own children. So I think one or two, or at least, will probably kind of, you'll pass the torch off to them, and they'll probably do, they'll find their own little niche of of some entertainment, I think, maybe later down the line.
Yeah, I think so, especially with the 2-year-old. She's already hamming it up. I'm like, oh boy.
She's really cute. I love it. Awesome. Now for parting words, what words of wisdom can you share with those who want to be like you, who want to be a comedian, who want to be, or even a YouTube creator or an internet sensation? What words of wisdom can you share with them?
Well, I think that if truly your passion is to create and to perform and you would do it whether you were paid or not, like you always have that creative drive, that's the first thing. I think in today's society with the social media going crazy about people just wanting to be famous, for anything.
Right.
I think it's to discern. With young people, I would literally tell them, discern first if this really is your passion, okay? Because if they start out putting a lot of hope into something they're not even really that passionate about, and then if they don't get the numbers or the views or whatever, this and that, they're already setting themselves up to just be discouraged. So I like to encourage kids that, first of all, figure out what it is that lights your fire, that you would do whether you were paid or not. You just have a passion. You have a creative drive towards it. You would just do it, First find out what that is. If it's in the same vein of what I'm doing, the most valuable advice that was given to me was that, look, there's this, if we were on video, I could like hold out my hands and show you that there's this many jobs, like so many actors, and you hold your hands far apart and go, there's this many actors that want to be professional and be paid to do what they love. But then you put your hands like way close together and show that, but there's this many jobs, like not that many. So there's a realistic point of view to tell people that not everyone is going to make it in Hollywood. Not everyone is going to be, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I really liked and appreciated when someone told me that, because I didn't go forward in the same direction that everybody was going. Because if someone told me, you just keep doing it, if I can make it, you can make it, everyone can make it. But I don't believe that to be true.
Yeah.
There is a unique place for everybody, but not everyone is going to make it in the same place. So that's what I would encourage people, is that you have a place to shine in this world. It may not be the way you think it's going to be. Because certainly I tried that. I went to New York City. I had an agent. I was going out on jobs, but they were dissatisfying. They were commercial auditions. They were just trying to fit in somebody else's idea. Mm-hmm. And if I were to go with the mentality of don't give up, never, always keep doing that same route, then I wouldn't have explored YouTube. I wouldn't have done all this other unique stuff that's unique to me. So yeah. I would tell people, don't just do what everybody else is doing. Tune in first to the specific unique gifts that God has given you first. Right. And then I believe that as you focus in on that and truly your purpose for being here, then doors will open eventually, but you have to be, you just have to be able to hold it loosely, and that you can't force that it has to happen, that you put everything on life on hold just so this dream can happen or whatever like that. Because then, you know what I mean? It's like life, you just keep living your life. You don't give up on the passion, the creative drive, but you have to hold loosely how that's going to manifest, how it's going to play out. So that's the type of advice I would tell somebody, is just that it may totally play out in a different way for you.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean,
so be open to that, basically. So just,
be open to that. And if someone is all about, hey, no, I know it's comedy. I know I want to be like you. I know that I'm gifted at comedy and this and that. I'd be like, well, shoot, well, go for it. Do open mics, do what it takes to, if you've got your friends and family, start your own little tour then. I had to believe in myself to actually, put that money out and book a theater. But I mean, I wouldn't say that's the first step, is book a theater. I'm saying like build up your audience amongst your family and friends, and it can grow from there. And, you know what I'm saying? But I love comedy because of the unique nature that you can tell your own story, and you don't have constraints around you to tell you need to be, you need to fit in this puzzle in this way, in this box, and this. No, you can be and do and share whatever your story is. That's why I love that. Or you're going to do one woman shows, doesn't need to be comedy. You can be a dramatic one woman show,
Yeah, exactly. I think you've really instilled a lot of inspiration and motivation in many listeners and many of your followers. I mean, people, they love that they can see there's people like me, people our color, people of our, our ethnicity, of our background that can do it. And you have really, like I said earlier, I think you're very groundbreaking in being able to pave that way for everybody because you're still doing it. And I love that. So, if anything, you are definitely the example I think most people would love to follow. So,
thank you, Annie.
Of course. Now, where can we follow you on social media?
Well, definitely HappySlip is the handle. So pretty much anywhere you go, like HappySlip on Instagram, HappySlip on Twitter, HappySlip on YouTube, HappySlip on Facebook. I mean, yeah, Facebook is where I tend to upload more than YouTube just because I feel like Filipinos especially share and connect better on Facebook.
Well, for sure. For sure.
So, right. But that's pretty much where you'll find me everywhere with HappySlip.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody, I will have all of Christine's social media information down below in the show notes. I will have her social media handles, her website, and you can actually even look on her website for some of the tour dates. So take a look at that. She's coming to a city near you, so go check her out.
Thank you, Annie.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Christine, thank you so much for being on the show. I am so grateful and very happy that we've had this time to connect and just for us to get to know a little bit more about you and Christine and HappySlip, because everybody needs to know the origin. Can you tell us one more time of the origin
Sure.
of HappySlip?
Of course. I wanted something memorable and also the name HappySlip has a dual purpose. So there's a memorable, a funny memory from the past with my mom saying, wear your half slip, but the way she would pronounce it is HappySlip, wear your HappySlip. So it was spelled as HappySlip in my head. And I didn't realize it wasn't really a HappySlip until friends at school. And I said, I forgot to wear my HappySlip. They're like, oh, do you have a sad slip too? So that's the funny memory part. But then the dual purpose, the other purpose is that I want people to slip into happiness when they watch the videos. So that's where I came up with that.
That's awesome. Yay. See, everybody, it's all about just getting out there and putting yourself, something relatable. And the way that Christine did too, is she took something that was memorable and created into the persona that she projects on her YouTube and all her social media. So I'm super happy. I think I think the doors are open for you, and it's the world is there for you. The world is your oyster. So I think you're on your way to where you need to be, I think. So, we're certainly going to be praying and holding you close to, our hearts here to make sure you're traveling safe, and that, more and more people come out and see her, everybody. So definitely go check out all her social media and her website and all her tour dates info. So, and there's more coming. So, always check back.
Yes, that's true. Always adding to that site, adding events and tour dates. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Well, that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Annie Talks and learning about Christine Gambito. Don't forget to check out her website, HappySlip.com, where you can view her tour dates and locations. She's coming to a city near you. I will have all that information and all of Christine's social media channels listed down below in the show notes, so be sure to check them out. Now, before you go, if you haven't already subscribed to the Annie Talks podcast, I invite you to hit subscribe and be notified anytime we upload a new episode. If you could also rate and review my podcast, it would surely help me out, and it will help others to find this podcast too. You can also follow Annie Talks on social media. I will have all the social media links down below in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, and keep listening to Annie Talks.
Hoy guys, this is Auntie Baby, from the HappySlip show. Okay, just want to let you know that you are listening to Annie Talks.